Marijuana versus e-cigarettes. Which one is worse for your health? Well, a surprising new poll showing 52% of Americans believe e-cigs are very harmful, but just 20% say the same thing about marijuana. Here now is Fox News medical correspondent Dr. Mark Siegel. So first of all, doctor, I got to ask you, do you think e-cigarettes are more harmful than pot?
Absolutely not. And by the way, I think the people that took this survey must have been smoking pot. I mean, I don't know how these results came out. They also said that alcohol, only 40% thought alcohol was very harmful, and 80% said tobacco. I mean, what about those 20% that don't even think smoking tobacco cigarettes is harmful? So look, here's the bottom line, and here's what the problem is. It's a problem in perception. We just got through a crisis where 1,000 people got sick from vaping, right? The public thinks that was e-cigarettes. It was actually vaping marijuana products over 80% of the time. So they got the wrong message. They got the vaping message, but they assigned it to the wrong product.
All right, so Dr. Siegel, it's Carol Roth. I don't do either. Sugar is my vice, so you're going to have to educate me here. But in terms of what is bad about either of these products, is it taking something that's a foreign substance into your lungs, or is it the actual makeup of what's in the individual products like marijuana?
Carol, that's a great point. Both are true. Taking something into your lungs is not good for your lungs. We don't know the long-term health risks of vaping. What we don't like about e-cigarettes is the nicotine, because it addicts you to a product and may bring you over to other nicotine products. In terms of marijuana, I'm much more concerned about the problems outside the lungs. I'm agreeing that lungs are at risk too, but there's a recent study that shows a high risk of psychosis among pot users because of the high THC content. It keeps going up higher and higher and higher, the active chemical in marijuana. There's issues of behavioral changes. There's issues of depression, anxiety, and learning. People don't perform as well on tests. That's what I'm worried about, and I'm talking about daily marijuana use here. So yes to the lung problems, but in case you think that vaping e-cigarettes like Juul is as bad for your lungs as tobacco, no way. Is it as bad for your lungs as marijuana? We don't know. I don't think so.
Right, but the argument is if you're somebody who's trying to quit cigarettes using the Juul, for example, then that's a good thing. You've made a positive step forward if eventually you can kick the Juul and kick the habit altogether. But what about the kids who have been induced into smoking? They never smoked before. They had these fruity flavors, and now you're producing a whole new generation of nicotine addicts. And Jackie, it's synthetic nicotine. And that worries me because we just don't know enough about it.
Jackie, that was very well said. I agree with all of that. And by the way, Juul stepped into a big ditch here, a PR problem, when they kept saying they're not targeting youth, when it was clear that they were. Then they were saying we're taking off creme brulee and bubblegum flavor. Then we found out just the last few days that mint is the flavor that most of our teens are vaping, and mint is what's still on the market. So Juul has been very disingenuous, in my opinion, in terms of what they've been trying to do. They're targeting the youth. And you're not supposed to legally be able, in any of our 50 states or D.C., to be able to sell e-cigarettes to anyone under the age of 18.
Yeah. Well, I beg to differ.
Well, I'm just going on a tangent here for all of our business investment people, Dr. Siegel. So I hedged myself, and I invested in a pre-roll hemp company that has no nicotine, and they're competing with cigarettes, and they're supposedly a healthier something to puff on. They don't like to be called cigarettes. But I would say Jackie hit it to a point. I think it's all about, you know, these fruity things. No one knows. We know one thing. Kids weren't doing it before, and now they're doing it more.
Yeah.
And so that can't be good.
And I'll say one more thing about it, because I did some actual research on the percentages of the Juul pods. They are very, very strong concentrations. They're nicotine salts, and they're very strong concentrations of this drug, especially for a generation, for example, that didn't smoke or doesn't have experience with taking nicotine in. I imagine there's something called nicotine poisoning if you puff on it too much.
Sure.
And they're so easy to puff that kids just don't really know what they're doing. They're saying they have racing hearts and they're not feeling well.
Doc?
Jackie, to your point, and I agree with Robert on this for once, Robert and I are in agreement on this. I think that it's the nicotine, you wouldn't believe how much nicotine this is. To your point, one cartridge has as much nicotine as a pack of cigarettes. And my son, age 14, says the middle schoolers and the high schoolers sit around all day, one after the other. They may do 3 or 4 pods a day. That's the equivalent of 3 to 4 packs of cigarettes a day of nicotine to somebody with a developing brain that doesn't need a racing heart. Completely agree. And I
Steve?
also agree that putting anything in your lungs is bad.
Doctor, I'm a small L libertarian, so I've always been in favor of drug legalization. But a serious point, you know, when it comes to marijuana, you know, I'm hearing all these reports now. Marijuana is this wonder drug that solves all sorts of health maladies, whether it's migraine headaches or whether it's glaucoma. Where do you stand on this issue? Is marijuana the positives better than the negatives? And do you think that legalization is working?
Cannabis.
Really, really a lot of questions, Steve. Number one, I think marijuana does have medicinal value if it's handled the right way by the right physicians. Number two, you'd be interested to know that with all this THC and everything going on with high-potency marijuana, which I think chronic use is bad for you, I believe in decriminalizing it. But let me tell you a statistic you're not aware of. Every single state where marijuana is legal, guess what has burgeoned? The illegal industry. They're hopping on the back of it. Oh, it's legal here in California, but 3 times as much of the marijuana sold in California is actually the illegal kind.
Why?
So, well, because they pretend that they're actually legal. They're not sold in a cannabis shop, but they're thinking we're going to play on the minds of people that it's really legal. So as the legalization occurs, the illegal industry burgeons. And then, last point, you're getting marijuana everywhere in states where it's legal. You're getting it in edibles. You're getting it in vaping. You're getting it in the marijuana in pot, in smoking pot.
I need to make last point. We've agreed with more things than just one. Okay, there has to be a second.
Yeah.
Well, we agree you're smart, Robert.
There's more to life than just politics. All right, Dr. Siegel, thank you very much.
you.
Appreciate it.